Welcome to Wellness Big Sis the Pod, a by Maven media production, where we believe you deserve real education from real experts delivered in a way you can actually use. I'm Dr. Kelsy Vick, your board-certified orthopedic doctor of physical therapy, and this podcast was built for the girl who is done feeling overwhelmed and frustrated by conflicting health noise and is ready for something she can actually trust. Every week, we have honest, science-backed conversations about your health, your hormones, your brain, your body, and everything in between. No fluff, no fear-mongering, just the truth. Because understanding your body is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. A table full of experts built for the curious girl who wants the truth. So welcome. Your seat is waiting for you. Today, I'm bringing you guys a guest in the pod whose approach to nutrition and fueling is so refreshing. She is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and integrative and functional nutrition certified practitioner. She's also the founder of Balance Blue Collective. Her approach brings together the clinical rigor of traditional dietetics with the broader root cause lens of functional and integrative nutrition. The result is the kind of nutrition philosophy that gets to the actual why behind how you feel. I can't wait for you guys to learn from her today. I know I learned a lot in our conversation. So with that, Bayleigh Wessel, welcome to Wellness Big Sis the Pod. So let's start with the foundations. Let's say a bride comes to you wanting to look her best and feel her best on her wedding day, or really just any girl looking to look her best and feel her best for a big event. What are some of the first things you want her to understand about her body that a lot of girls get wrong?
So one of the things that I see a lot of brides come to me about is they just want to lose the weight. And what the actual win is the body composition, right? So keep building the muscle while reducing the inflammation. And it's two completely different conversations and different outcomes. So if we think about it, so for example, body composition, it doesn't necessarily equal weight. So you can be the same number on the scale and look completely different, right? Think of Alona, right? The rugby player, she is pure muscle. But if you take her BMI, obviously her BMI is going to be high, but that's muscle, right? So just because you have a number on the scale or a BMI, that doesn't necessarily equal healthy, right? Or it does equal healthy, right? It's not a great marker there. So definitely looking at that. The other thing is too, with the scale, I'm not a big fan of scale, if you want my honest opinion. I think it's the single worst metric for brides actually when we actually look about it, because again, it doesn't necessarily measure what we're actually looking at. So again, body composition doesn't necessarily equal weight. The second thing is too, and one of the biggest mistakes I see brides make, is they eat less instead of eating enough, right? So we cut down our calories and we super restrict, or we cut out a whole food group and all these different things, or we undereat protein dramatically, right? And with that one specifically, that results in muscle loss. It, may be disguised as weight loss, but it photographs, because again, pictures are massive whenever it comes to our wedding day. It photographs as this softer, less defined, less photogenic body composition, right? And that's not necessarily what we want. So we want to make sure we're eating enough, and we're wanting to make sure we're truly fueling our bodies overall and making sure we're getting protein during that caloric intake, right? Because it's super, super important there too. And when we think of protein too, I typically recommend to brides eating roughly around 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight. And that goal body weight is going to vary per person. That's how it's supposed to be, right? Everybody is different. Everybody is unique, right? So that 0.8 to 1 gram protein is going to be super, super, super important there. The other thing, because I'm throwing a lot at you, but the other thing I see too is I see women eat half of that, right? They eat half the amount of protein that they should be eating there. And that's the clinical observation, not necessarily a stat. But in my practice, I see women that come to me and they're typically eating closer to maybe 50 to 60 grams when their target should be closer to that 120 to 140. So overall, the biggest piece of advice that I typically give brides, add before subtract, right? Instead of removing all of these different food groups, all of these different things, let's add some good things in, okay? If we're not eating our vegetables, let's add in some vegetables there, okay? I typically recommend trying to get around 30 different types of fruits and vegetables into your diet a week. And I know that sounds like a lot, That's really not when we think of like herbs and different things like that. Like you can do cilantro, you could do dill, you can do basil. That's 3 right there, and those are just added into dishes. And we're getting a wide variety of different vitamins and minerals in there too. Every meal, I tell brides, I'm like, let's start just with the basics. Instead of focusing on the number, instead of focusing on those macros, let's start with getting a protein, a fiber, a carb in every meal. Right? Because that's how we really just build that foundation there, okay? And those foundations are truly what's important overall. We want to build those foundations. So protein, fiber, and a carb at every single meal. So it's a wide variety of different things to build into that overall big picture, but it's truly important for that bride to be looking at as a whole.
What would that timeline look like for ideal changes to be made? A lot of the people's mindset around big event planning and preparation with their bodies is like extreme restriction and wanting to decrease body fat like in a really quick way. So what would that healthy like timeline look like for some of the changes that you're talking about?
Yeah, 100%. So it's not quick. All right. Like it's one of those things to where I have people come to me, not just brides. I mean, people in general, and they're like, I want to lose 10 pounds in a week. I'm like, that's not going to happen. That's not healthy. We're going to rework this just a little bit, right? But for brides specifically, we need to be thinking, and typically it follows the engagement period. All right. I know some people are engaged a little bit longer. I was a 2-year engagement. My baby sister, she's getting married this summer too. She's a 2-year engagement as well, but it takes that full year. And I want brides to really take their time, because if we crash course it, it's not going to work, right? We become overwhelmed. We become stuck. We may see some other body issues pop up because we're like, for example, chronically restricting, or we're taking some random supplement off the market that may not be FDA approved. And then from there, what happens? We lose our period. We bloat more. We start having other issues. And that's the last thing we want to happen before the wedding, right? Very last thing. So overall, I typically recommend probably around 10 to 12 months. That's like the dream timeline of what I recommend, okay? And it's gonna give you that perfect runway to do it right. It's sustainable, it's hormone friendly, and there's no extreme moves here. And so if we kind of break it down in terms of like, okay, what's gonna happen with every single month? So if we think in terms of months 12 to 9, okay? So we're working top down. That's gonna be more of like our foundation phase. So we're gonna be establishing that protein baseline based off of your height and weight, okay? And what works for you, what your training schedule is, what your work-life balance is, all of those things. We're going to be establishing that sleep routine. That is crucial. Oh my gosh. The amount of times I talk to people about sleep, yes, I'm a dietitian, but sleep plays such an important role. And you probably do the same thing, Kelsey, of like, hey, we maybe need to like get a few more, hours of sleep instead of that 5 to 6. Our bodies don't recover that way, right? The good or perfect amount is around that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, right? Like that's like the sweet spot in terms of sleep. So really establishing that sleep routine. On top of the sleep routine too, like we want to make sure like, okay, are we really hitting that REM stage? Are we getting enough deep sleep? Are we not tossing and turning all night? Really, so focusing on that foundation there. The other thing too is really focusing, and this is where we can start introducing that strength training. So at a minimum, strength training about 3 times a week, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy, okay? It can be basic, right? It can be, we go to the gym and maybe we work arms, maybe we work back, maybe we work legs, right? It doesn't have to be crazy overall. Just get there, show up, work on those routines, because the thing is too, we got to work on is establishing that routine and developing those habits. And I'm a big fan of habit stacking. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of habit stacking, but we start small and we wiggle our way up from there, right? So habit stacking. So if we start like, say you're going to the gym, maybe 3 is not feasible for you. Maybe you're starting at 2. Okay, perfect. 2, fantastic. From there, we bump up to 3. From there, we may bump up to 4. And maybe 4 is your max. That's totally fine. We're just getting into the gym and we're starting that strength training too, okay? And then heck, maybe you get crazy. You add in some cardio, you add in some Pilates, you add all of these different things in. That's totally fine. But just getting in there and starting to develop that routine, okay? And the last thing with that foundation phase is that regular meal timing. This one's a big one, okay? Because I see, especially during the wedding planning stage, I was guilty of it. I will be the first one to admit that, okay? It gets busy. It becomes a lot, right? Because if we think about, we have to go visit venues, we have to meet with our family, we have the bridal shower, we have bachelorette parties, we have all of these things going on, we forget to eat. And whenever we forget to eat, that affects our blood sugar, that affects our energy, that makes us potentially bloat more, that affects the weight. It has just this downward spiral of effects, right? So in eating intuitively and making sure we're eating our breakfast, making sure we're eating lunch, eating dinner, and if we need a snack in between, that's fine, right? But eating regularly. So moving into month 9 to 6, this is more of that optimization phase, as I like to call it. So this is where we are going to dial in if we want to, adjust our body comp a little bit more and we need to shift that. We're going to dial in our macros, okay? We're going to add in that daily walk. And when I say daily walk, I know 10,000 steps is excessive for a lot of people, especially if you are working a desk job. Like 90% of people, I feel like anymore, right? Getting up and walking all the time, it takes mind work. So getting a minimum of 8,000 steps, okay? Right? And that doesn't have to be all at once. Like if you guys are Aura girlies or Garmin girlies, right, it's going to track. And I promise you're probably walking more than what you think you are. So even if it's on my lunch break, I'm going to be intentional and I'm going to walk around the building, right, or the loop or whatever works, or around the office. Heck, you know what I mean? Starting to get those steps in, starting to get active there, okay? The other thing with that optimization phase is refining that sleep. Okay, you're probably going to start to pick up on, all right, I'm not sleeping well, or I'm tossing and turning, this just isn't going well. Okay, maybe we need to adjust the sleep environment. Maybe we need to make the room darker, a little cooler, different things like that. Okay, and really refining that sleep, because again, that's when that recovery happens. Stress management is also really big in this phase too. Okay, because again, wedding planning is stressful. I mean, I'm very type A, do not get me wrong. My mother, she's just like, Bayleigh, you just had all your stuff together. And I'm like, yes, I know, because I don't take a break, right? That was me during that time, right? So I was stressed 24/7. Like my Aura ring was just like off the charts. Like, Bayleigh, calm down, Bayleigh, calm down, right? Stress management is crucial, right? Do some breath, meditate, right? I don't know if anybody meditates here, but I have my like go-to meditation that I'll pick, or I'm a prayer girly too. I'll hop on Hallow prayer, any sort of just mindfulness, those stress management techniques, even walking, right? Stepping away from your desk, going and walking is super crucial. Month 6 to 3, this is going to be that refinement phase, right? So if again, we're working on that body comp, small caloric adjustments if needed, okay? Maybe a deficit if you need that too, right? So around that 10 to 15%. But if you do anything more than that, that's when we start to see those hormones start to get kind of funky. So we don't want to do anything more than that. Again, I don't want you guys having any wonky hormones. Again, a lot of times when we're thinking marriage, a lot of times we're thinking babies too. So that's the last thing we want to do here, right? The other thing with this, okay, emphasizing recovery more. So post-workout protein within that 2 hours, right? Or maybe we're adding in, 15 minutes on a session, okay? Or we're doing more stretches, okay? Something in terms of that overall recovery. The other thing you could do here too, you can get some blood work done. We can really see, okay, what do we need to tinker with, right? So say for example, we have some ferritin low, or our vitamin D levels are low, or different things like that. We can start to tinker with that and adjust that. That would be more in that refinement phase. And then month 3 to 1, okay, so we're getting towards the end of it, we're getting close, right? This is going to be that maintenance and that inflammation reduction. And this is not, and I repeat, my gosh, this is not the time to do any big fixes. This is not the time to go and buy some detox teas or some random supplement that's going to be like, oh, you're going to lose weight. No, this is not the time for it, okay? Do not do aggressive deficits. And that's even bumping up your workouts to 3-hour workouts a day. Girl, that does not need to happen, okay? Or significantly reducing your caloric intake. Girl, that really does not need to happen. You know what you're going to do? You're going to crash, okay? We're not doing anything crazy during this time. We're focusing on skin, sleep, energy. That's our priorities, okay? We're going to do a few things to really help that out. One being reducing alcohol. Alcohol is a major inflammation driver, right? So we're going to be reducing that alcohol overall. The other thing we're going to be adding into our routine, magnesium glycinate. I'm a huge magnesium glycinate person, right? I take it every night before bed. Helps really calm the system, the nervous system overall. So taking that magnesium glycinate before bed, right? It's also going to help with some bowel movements. Want to make sure we're going to the bathroom. I know some girly pops, whenever they get stressed, they don't go to the bathroom, okay? I have a few friends that are that way, right? So we want to make sure we are taking that. And also, you know what also helps with that? Drinking water and eating your food regularly. You see how this all starts to stack together, okay? We're building, right? So we start small, habit stacking, and then we're working our way up, right? Then when we think week of, okay, this is the big one. For the love of everything, do not add anything in. Don't try any new foods. Don't try any new restaurants. Don't try any new supplement, okay? This is not the time to try anything new, friends, okay? We are not messing anything up. We have put in the work over this past year at this point in time. We're not going to do anything to wreck this system. The other thing we're going to do here, we're going to hydrate. We're going to make sure we're drinking our water. Why? Because if we don't drink our water, one, start to lose the energy a little bit, right? But the other thing too, it can kind of dull your skin. Have you ever noticed that? If you like don't drink enough water, your skin starts to dull and it gets kind of like wonky. So we want to make sure we're drinking our water. We're going to be eating, okay? I know you're not going to want to. I didn't want to. I don't think anybody wants to eat close to like the wedding week. Nerves are high. There's a lot of things going on and you're like, oh my gosh, I have this to do. I have to go get my dress. I have to make sure, if you love my husband, but this man, you know he didn't have his tux. So you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my husband's tux. And we have to make sure all the bridesmaids are good. And all the groomsmen have their tux and everything, right? There's a lot of stressors going on and you don't want to eat. But you have to eat. Even if it's a smoothie, okay? I know there's a lot of people saying like, oh, smoothies aren't great for you. You can build a really awesome, jam-packed nutrient-dense smoothie, okay? Anything you can get into your system. Make sure you are still eating overall. Limiting that alcohol again, okay, especially 3 to 4 days before, right? Because that is, again, it's an inflammation driver. Making sure we're eating our proteins, eating our fruits and vegetables, eating the rainbow. You can be eating the rainbow during this entire time. I encourage you to eat the rainbow this entire time. And I'm not talking about Skittles. I'm talking about your fruits and vegetables, right? Because your fruits and veggies are important. Last thing here too, MAC glycinate. Make sure you're still doing that MAC glycinate because that's really going to calm that overall nervous system, all right? But overall, that's typically how I would set up that roadmap, okay? That 10 to 12 months, this is not a crash course right before all of this. It's the last thing I want you to do, okay? You're going to feel like crap. You might kind of start to look like crap. And that's the last thing we want on your wedding day, right? Like, we want you to be stunning. This is your day. And you want to feel the best that you can. You don't want to feel like crap. So we're going to do everything in our power ahead of time so you don't.
I love that. I come from the generation where it was just the only formula we cared about when it came to body composition. And honestly, who even cared about energy levels at that time? But it was like, you know, calories in, calories out. Those were the only two numbers. And I just love that you broke it down as someone who is like just super educated on fueling and how the female body handles fueling. You did not just talk about fueling and like what you're putting in our body, but you talked about the holistic aspect around all of it, which I feel like is those like extra little secret things that are part of that calories in, calories out formula. Like we didn't care about all of the other, you know, sleep, stress management, hormones, blood sugar levels. Like what even was that? We just cared about calories, and let alone what even made up those calories, right? It was like the number, not even the
if
protein amount.
About it too, like, no, 100%. And if we think about it too, like, I think we're really shifting in terms of healthcare overall to, instead of just looking at one picture, we have to look at the whole body approach. We have to look at everything overall. And that includes genuinely everything. That includes our lab levels. That's going to include our sleep. That's going to include our exercise. That's going to include our stress management. That's going to include the way we eat, the way we think, everything overall. We have to start looking at the full picture because, friends, you are not just one part. You're not just one blood test. You're not just one type of exercise or one type. No, your body doesn't get fixed that way, right? And so we have to start looking at it as from that whole body overall approach.
And like you said, taking that engagement era, that bridal era, that 10 to 12 months, because I really do feel like that's average. And a lot of body composition changes from like an exercise standpoint. You know, I speak about the same thing that you spoke about. Like it takes time to experiment with what feels good for your body with exercise and with fueling. So this bridal era is really just a way to encourage people to look at things a little bit more long term. Yes, the wedding day might be this like motivator for these body composition changes, these fueling changes that you might have needed to make, the sleep changes you might have needed to make, the stress management techniques you might have needed to add. But it can be that external motivator for these changes that can last well into that first year of marriage, second year of marriage, 10th year of marriage. Like it's just this nice period where you're already thinking about how can I build the best life with my partner, but how can I also like build the best me, you know, the hottest version of me when it comes to my mind, body, soul, spirit, all of it.
100%. And I'm really big on thinking in terms of like long-term health too, right? So Heck yeah, your wedding can be 100% your motivator. Fantastic, my friends. But let's think past the wedding, okay? Because we're not putting all of this work that we put in over this past year and just letting it go. What did you do that for? To look good in one picture? No! You've put in work here, my friends. That's the last thing I want to do, is all that work to go to waste, okay? And right, like we talked about a little bit earlier, so a lot of women are thinking about babies after marriage too, right? The work you are going to start putting in for that wedding is going to be a roadmap leading into that, which, Kelsey, I know we're talking about that potentially later, but, you know, it's one of those things to where if we think in terms of long-term health and what we want from our bodies, what we want to, you know, portray from a personal standpoint, but also in our marriage, and what we want to influence on our spouse and our kids and our family and our friends and who we want to be, this can very well be that start. And this can very well start that change, that lasting change.
You touched on a few points. One that really stuck out to me earlier, speaking of the secret contributors to things like body composition and energy levels, you mentioned blood sugar levels related to bloating. And I have noticed that significantly in my own previous history of fueling and trying to figure out, you know, how to change my body composition primarily with deficit and caloric deficit and not in a healthy way. But I noticed myself, like when my blood sugar levels got out of whack and I felt those cravings, I also felt more bloated even with that restriction. And I think a lot of girls can get in that mindset. So can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, 100%. So blood sugar actually plays a role in so many things. Like a lot more than what I think a lot of the public and what of like social media typically like leads on, which is kind of crazy, right? It's almost like the unsung hero of a lot of chronic conditions, including bloating and inflammation and all these different things here. We live in a society today, and Kelsey, I'm sure you see this all the time too. It's very carbohydrate based. We live in a society, I call it the SAD diet, so the standard American diet, okay? And it is very sad, right? It's a lot of processed foods, minimal protein, very minimal fiber, okay? Where we are eating those types of diets that are very high in carbohydrates, what's it going to do to our blood sugar? It's going to spike it. And we're going to see a lot of peaks. What we want to see from our blood sugar overall are those valleys, okay? So what can we do to get those valleys overall? Include a protein, fiber, and carb at every meal, okay? It's easy. It's really not that hard. Now, those chronic blood sugar spikes, again, that overall can contribute to that overall inflammation. It can also contribute to hormone issues, chronic disease. I've seen patients even with autoimmune conditions, right? Their blood sugar is all out of whack and it makes those conditions worse. We see blood sugar affect so many different things. I see it affect so many different things in practice. It's crazy, right? So including that protein, fiber, carb, and fats, don't forget the fats, at every single meal, that's going to be so crucial, right? And it's going to help reduce that overall inflammation. Another thing you can do too, this one's a fun trick that I always tell my clients, especially the ones who wear I did a CGM trial at one point, and that was 10 out of 10 recommend, that was cool. But walking after meals, it blunts that post-glucose spike, which is really cool.
I love that. What do they call them? Like fart girl walks, or there's like girls that'll put on it, you know, I'm like, I love
girl
this.
Walks,
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But they have something there, right? Like, you know, yes, wellness influencers, we need to watch, okay? We need to be mindful of the content that we are taking in, because nothing on the internet, or I should say a lot of what's on the internet is not necessarily true, right? But those hot girl walks, they have something to it, especially after eating, okay? They're on to something. And honestly, make it fun, right? If you're anything like me, there's like a magnesium drink that I absolutely love. I'll drink my magnesium drink on my hot girl walks or my fart girl walks. You know what I mean? Make it fun. Take your husband, take your friends. If you've got girly pops in the neighborhood, make it like a nightly thing, right? Heck, if you're married and you got kids, put the kids to bed, go on your walk, whatever you need to do, right? It's so much fun. Make it interesting, right? They're on to something. Some of the other things they say, I'm like, but that one, they're on.
The hot girl walk, the fart girl walk. I just love the names that pop up. I'm like, or the digestive walks, you know,
too.
I'm like, hey, that's cool. You
Oh
know?
my gosh, yes.
Fart girl walks.
People are so creative, man. I'm not that creative.
I will borrow. I wish I could credit, but I've seen it a lot where I'm like, okay, these are funny. Like, I actually like that term and it's so funny to me. I'm like, but it also is accurate.
Yes. No, I wish I was that creative. I'm really not. I try to be. I'm very like on the analytical brain side, which is why I'm in the field that I'm in, and I'm not like marketing or anything like that. I leave that up to the marketing girlies.
Totally. You mentioned a CGM. This is something I want to do too. I have recently gotten an update updated DEXA scan, which we were kind of talking about earlier when we talked about the number on the scale and the BMI not being the most accurate representation of someone's like whole body picture. And my DEXA scan, I was like so proud of, you know, actually, because we did a whole episode on like analyzing my results, but basically it was my first one in 11 years and I wanted a new baseline. I'm in this era, I'm calling it like hottest girl era, like basically before pregnancy, which again, we will talk about, you know, stay tuned, you guys. I'm excited for that conversation, but it's like, how can I get the healthiest but hottest version of myself too? And with that comes the DEXA scan and looking at my muscle mass, my fat mass. So I wanted this updated sort of picture. And I was telling everyone I had gained, I believe it was almost 15 pounds in 11 years. And number on the scale, you'd be like, oh my gosh, Kelsy, like 15 pounds. But
a lot of people freak.
Yeah. When you break it down, I think it was almost 14 pounds of muscle, which I was like, this, or lean mass, you know? So I was like, this is actually like very, very exciting. So having that data for us girls who are data driven, you mentioned the CGM, DEXA scans, where should someone who has that more like analytical mind, like maybe we do, put those in their sort of like bridal era or their hottest version era? Like what are some good metrics and objective ways to track some of these things that we're talking about? And where should those be put throughout that sort of like timeline?
100%. I really think the DEXA scan is honestly one of the biggest things for it. CGM, is it worth it? It's cool to see, don't get me wrong. Like, it'd be really awesome. But you can also do it with a finger prick, right? Finger prick is always gold standard when it comes to measuring CGMs. CGMs are not, one thing I found from my trial, they're not always accurate, right? And some of the CGMs, I tried multiple different types. They're maybe a little too off for my liking, so be very wary of the CGMs. But the DEXA scan is definitely one that I think would be awesome if you have access to it. I think honestly, you could almost do it at every stage. Definitely doing it stage 1, right? Those foundation stage, that like 12 to 9 month range, just getting that overall baseline. And then if you want to check throughout, fantastic. But if you're one of those people too, and I mean, I'm very keen and I try to be very mindful on this too, because I do think it's important. If you're one of those people, numbers bother you, don't worry about it. It's not that important, okay? Like, you don't need to have those numbers. You don't need to constantly be on a scale. You constantly don't need to be looking, all right? Just focus on the numbers. If that is you too, right, and body image and body composition really kind of starts to bug you also, pictures, okay? Take pictures, all right? And you can start to see that change from pictures too. But yeah, DEXA, if you are on that analytical mindset and you love to see those numbers and track on that, you could definitely do it each stage if you have access to it, 100%.
I feel like it also helps me as someone who has previously been super concerned with the number on the scale, right? Like, you know, little college Kelsy, that's what, you didn't want the freshman 15. Like, that was the worst thing that could possibly happen, you know? And it helped me to realize, like, okay, there is more to this number. There is more to who I am in my own makeup than, you know, just that number on the scale. But I've also noticed with some of the changes that I've been implementing, I also feel better, like in my skin, in my body. So I think, like you said, taking pictures, but I also know that I think people will start to feel it once they enact these like true changes. Again, not this extreme restriction that I feel like a lot of us get into, or like you said, even the adding 3 hours of exercise, like all of that stuff. I feel like this longer term look, you actually do start to feel better in how your body moves about the world.
Yeah. And it's one of those things at the end of the day too, that's what matters, right? We think about it like, all right, yes, we want to look the best on our wedding day. Yes, we want to look the best in pictures. But at the end of the day, too, we got hair, makeup, this beautiful dress you're going to be putting on. You got the bridal party that's going to be hyping you up. But if we feel like crap, is it going to matter? Because what are we going to be focused on that we feel like crap? We want to feel the best that we can, okay? And that's truly what's going to matter. We want to be there and mindful and present and feel great enough to experience all of that, okay? Because it's one of those things at the end of the day, if we feel like crap, what are we doing?
I know you touched on it a little bit before, but part of like feeling our best, not only with body composition, but also with energy levels, relates a lot back to hormones. And I think that's another sort of secret, I guess, ingredient in this whole grand scheme of things that a lot of girls forget. So can you touch on hormones a little bit and the role that they play in our bodies and helping us to look our best, whether it's with body composition changes or even like feel our best with energy levels?
So if we think in like terms of like hormone health, right? Because I feel like hormones for some reason, it has become so trendy online. And a lot of people, I think their intentions are truly good, but I think they're getting it wrong. For example, cortisol has become the villain. Cortisol's not the villain, right? Or we have people who are like, oh my gosh, you have to have progesterone. You have to have it. Well, yeah, but not the way you're saying it, right? Hormone health is not a vibe. It's measurable and it's felt, right? And you guys should know what both feel like. And that feels like energy that's stable across the day. And you're not crashing at 2 p.m. and you're going to Starbucks and trying to buy a coffee, only to recover that energy for you to crash an hour later, right? It should feel like a mood that's reasonable across your entire cycle. And we're not going from one extreme to the next off your period and getting close to your period, right? It should feel like, or your period arriving on time even. Every 24 to 35 days. That's typical for most of all. It's not, late. It doesn't come with severe PMS. It should feel like sleep that's deep and also restorative, right? It should be, your hair, your skin, your nails not actively telling you that something is wrong. Like our hair is not brittle and our fingernails don't have severe indented lines on it, showing that we may have a nutrient deficiency. And our libido exists, right? We have that sex drive. That's what it should look like there, okay? And it shouldn't be anything that's not.
How can underfueling or over-exercising affect our hormones? Like, what are some of the risks that we run if we do go into some of those extreme deficits with fueling? Maybe our goal is not to affect our hormones, but what are some things that can happen to our hormonal health if we start to restrict when it comes to fueling or over-exercise or get super stressed, underfueling, over-exercising, lack of sleep on top of stress?
Yep.
How do all of those things affect our hormonal health picture?
So let's think about it this way. So food doesn't just fuel you. It's the literal raw materials that your body uses to actually build those hormones, okay? So if we are not eating, we're not building those hormones, right? And it starts to have that severe domino effect on down, right? So if we think about it, in that 3-stage framework, okay? So 1 being production. So hormones are built from protein, healthy fats, cholesterol, micronutrients, right? So a wide variety of different things. Chronic undereating, chronic underproduction. And this is well established in the literature. It's typically called functional hypothalamic amenorrhea. I can never say that word, but amenorrhea, right? And that's a textbook example. So the body will shut down the sex hormone productions when energy availability drops below, I think it's around 30 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass per day, right? So we start to see that shift. Number 2 is that regulation. So stable blood sugar equals stable hormones, okay? This goes back to that blood sugar conversation we were having earlier too, right? If we're eating protein-forward meals, including that fiber, doing that post-walk at the end of the meal, that's gonna do more for your hormone regulation than most supplements ever will. As a dietitian, I am always food first. I will always forever be food first. Food is medicine in my book, and food plays a crucial role in every single system in your body. No supplement will ever replace that. You can try to out-supplement your way out of a lot of things, including hormone issues, and if you still don't fix that framework, if you still don't fix your diet, if you're chronically under eating, it's not going to fix it, right? We're just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole at that point, and it's just not going to work, right? 3, clearance. So this one, if we think in terms of our liver and our gut, they metabolize those hormones for elimination. Our body, shocker, our body has elimination systems, right? They have detox systems. Wow, right? You're sold all these things online saying, oh, this is going to detox you. Oh, drink this tea and this is good. No, it doesn't work like that. Our body actually does that for us. So amazing. Isn't it amazing how our bodies are created? Truly, right? We have that liver in our gut that does that work for you, right? Whenever you go to the bathroom and you poop, what is that? It's elimination. It eliminates the bad things out of the body, right? Oh, if we're constipated, okay? And you're probably like, why are we talking about constipation with hormones? But how does that have to deal with it, right? So constipation, whenever we're constipated, we have that recircling of estrogen, and that's not great for the body. Whereas if we have regular bowel movements, it supports that proper hormone clearance. 3 things, right? So a lot of things happen with those hormones, okay? And a lot of things happen to make those hormones work the way they should.
I love that. And I'm going to now think about this when I'm eating my own food. I'm I'm building my hormones. I love looking at it that granular, or, I'm building muscle. The 2-hour window of protein after exercise, I've been trying to be a little better about that, because I'm one of those people that probably would tell you, like, it's so hard for me to eat after exercise. I just don't feel hungry. But I've been being more purposeful about that. And I think of it as like, I'm building the muscle. So I like that image.
My go-to, literally, fun fact, is literally dates and almond butter. Just trying to get like some protein in. That's an easy one.
I've been making date bark. So I'm doing dates, sun butter, which I found spreads a little easier than the almond butter that I buy, and then dark chocolate. I'm a huge dark chocolate fan, so.
That one's good too. I love dark chocolate too. It's not bad.
No, but
dark chocolate's not bad.
It's delicious, and it's a little dessert too, but that's funny. The dates and almond butter.
That sounds really good.
The dates and almond butter are good. I like flatten my dates, roll the sun butter on it, and then I freeze it. I do like it's more of a process than just the date and the almond butter. So the date and the almond butter is a little more approachable.
Yes. It's okay. There's one product I'm obsessed with right now. I am not affiliated with them whatsoever, I promise. Realzy is like my quick and easy, like I will just go and grab it, whether it's like a pre-workout snack or I need something like right after. They're like almond-filled dates. And I know it's a super easy snack to make, and I know I could make it myself, but just the convenience of it is fantastic.
Realzy, like real food, Realzy. Okay, I haven't heard of those. I'm going to have to go look those up.
It's REALSY.
Okay, I have never had them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably really good in the fridge, like a little, like a little popper.
Oh, I haven't done that. That sounds good.
The convenience factor too.
It's so good. Yes. Well, and that's big for people too, right? Because like, that's one of the biggest things I hear, especially like even from brides, from mothers, from, everybody is, I want to eat healthy, but it's the convenience of it. We are now shifting, which is finally, as a population to where, okay, if we have to have this from a convenience standpoint, we want good ingredients. We want this to be a better option. We want it to have fiber. We want it to have protein. We want it to have what it needs to have in it and be healthy, right? And so we're seeing all these products flood the market right now, which is fantastic. Great. I love it. And you have products like Realzy that are coming on, and it's just a quick and easy grab.
I love it. Well, Bayleigh, thank you so much for coming on, chatting all things like bridal, wedding prep, fueling, but really just a sneaky way to talk about female physiology and how food actually affects our bodies. So thank you so much. How can people support you? What do you have coming up that's super exciting that just recently we started hearing about?
Oh my goodness, yes. You guys can find me. I own a private practice called Balance Blue Collective, so you can find me on Instagram under Balance Blue Collective. You can find me on Instagram under my personal, which is Dietitian Bayleigh, right? We post all those fun things. You can find me on TikTok under Dietitian Bayleigh, all those fun things. We have a lot of fun things coming up with Balance Blue Collective, actually. Surprise, surprise, I'm launching a podcast. So that'll be launching July 8th. It's called No Extremes. And we'll be talking all things nutrition, all things integrative functional nutrition, no BS, okay? We're direct, we're to the point, right? And you can also find me through my services through Balance Blue Collective.
Awesome. You said you're out of Indiana, but can any other states or girls in other states work with you?
Yes. So I'm in Indiana right now. Fun fact, the CDR, which is the Commission of Dietetic Registration, we're working on licensure compact. So hopefully that's going to be launched soon, and hopefully Indiana can hop on that train so we can do that, so we can practice out of state. But outside of that, if you are in California, Colorado, Arizona, Michigan, Virginia, Washington, and Maine, let me know. I can help you out. But we do have a wide variety of different things coming up too that aren't licensure required. So a lot of good things coming. I'm really trying to help you guys out because a lot of people are needing a lot of information. I'm helping out in any way that I can.
I love it. And I learned so much from Bayleigh. I'm in Texas, so I wouldn't be able to work with her from a formal standpoint, but honestly, the education you share, I'm so freaking excited for your podcast because I know you guys can tell she's such a light, a joy. Like, she has a way of sharing information in just like a fun, girly way, but also, it's like coming from someone who has the education and clinical expertise to back it up. So I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm excited for our next conversation.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I also will leave all of the links to all of Bayleigh's socials, how to book with her, her website, all the things for that, including her waitlist for her podcast that releases July 8th for those of you guys in the show notes below. But thank you guys for joining us. I hope you learned a lot from Bayleigh, and we'll see you guys again on the next episode of Wellness Big Sis the Pod.